This is the 98th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the second week of July 2012. This episode is titled Goodnight, Fortnight. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts. And I'm your rusty host, back from a week off, looking across the wide expanse of this small table at the other co-host for the 98th time in a row, Justin Elsting. Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's comfortable in the studio today.
It is.
We've had some air conditioning issues as of late, but it's a comfortable 70 degrees as opposed to yesterday where it was a balmy 84.
Yes, we've been battling with the air conditioning.
But I'm loving it. I'm sitting here.
You almost look like you're cold.
A little bit. I got my arms crossed, but I can't at this point complain about being cold.
That's kind of true.
That's just
because you can't.
No, can't do that.
No, and it did inspire me to go out and purchase these.
Those are cool. Those could be a CloudFocus app pick of the week.
They could
Hardware selection.
Yeah, I have much coming up, and I have so many CloudFocus.
I've been starting to prepare.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But speaking of podcasts and picks of the week,
let's do it.
I
gotta open this up.
We have an agenda this week.
As we always do.
Back from our 2-week hiatus. We have the blog post du jour, which was mine.
How do you say du week?
Not
du jour. It's like, what's the soup of the day?
So I did my best at paying for a lot of apps and then only using one, where I reviewed 4 podcasting apps for the iOS. So we'll talk about that. It's on the blog, but we should talk about it because this is a podcast and it's sort of meta to talk about podcasts on a podcast app in podcast land, and hopefully you're listening to one of this podcast on one of those podcast apps. Mm-hmm. We also have some Salesforce outages. We were in the midst of a couple. It's one last week, one this week. Talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, because it's another week, or a day that ends in Y, as I like to say, Salesforce has bought somebody. So we'll talk about that. And then we have some LinkedIn news. And then we'll end up with our CloudFocus picks of the week and a little preview of what's coming up on our 100th episode, which is now only 2 weeks away. Mm-hmm. All right, so first up was the podcasting app.
Your blog post.
My blog post,
The best and worst iOS podcast apps.
It is... It took me a while to write it because, I had to actually I had to really go use a bunch of apps.
You got to really use them.
Yeah.
You can't just open them up. You got to really try them and use them.
And some of them weren't even worth using. They just were so badly done. And as I went from one to another and kind of tried one and tried the other, plus the thing that it does that podcasting apps do that we're all excited about, which they all do, which is sort of the subscription side and sort of downloads things, that's something you can't test immediately. You kind of have to wait for it to happen.
Right.
So I reviewed 4.
Yep.
I reviewed Downcast.
You did Downcast by a company that I'm not going to try.
Yep.
iCatcher.
Yep.
You did Podcasts by Apple.
Yep.
Which is new, which I think spurred this.
Yes.
And then Instacast, our favorite.
Yes. We don't have to give away the whole thing. You're an Instacast user.
Well, I've used 2.
Oh, you've used 2? Oh, because
you
used the free one.
I've used Instacast for a long time now. And I downloaded Podcasts because I wanted to see how it worked.
Right. Well, what was your thoughts on podcasts? We'll only talk about podcasts.
Well, my initial gut reaction to podcasts was, this is it? Where is the app?
Right.
This is not an app. It didn't do anything that the podcast little tab inside of the music app did for me.
Right.
It just didn't do any... the only extra little added feature it had was to flip into iTunes directly to the podcast section.
Yeah.
But that's it. It didn't do the downloading in the background
it does.
deal. Well, I couldn't get it to do it.
You could subscribe to things. There's a button on the lower left-hand side that says catalog, and then you can go from there.
I did that, and it jumped me into iTunes or something.
And then you can click on one, and then you subscribe. So it does all the same stuff.
It brought in, which was nice. It did bring in
the ones you had,
the podcasts that I had inside of the iPod app or the music app. So that was nice. But I didn't see the easy way to just subscribe.
Yeah.
And I mean that's what I like Instacast for, because I don't have to think about it. I just subscribe to it. Now, if podcasts made that nice and simple, and it sounds like That was just like, I just didn't see it.
Right.
So and Apple's usually good about that stuff. I didn't know that feature even existed. If they could just do them in the background, I'd flip to podcasts today.
Yeah, it does. It does in the background.
So I don't even need to know.
Except for Instacast. So here's the thing. I
Well,
mean,
you're telling me I'm going to switch, basically.
No, you're not, because Instacast is a better app, and you already own it.
Well, yeah, I do already own it.
That's it.
And I use it. And all my subscriptions
and
are
it's
in
better. It's just better. It has more features. So basically it comes down to, I think, sadly, like Podcast by Apple, while I like that it's free, so meaning if people want to get into podcasts, great.
Yeah.
But its experience is so bad that it's slow, it crashes, it's not a very good user interface, and it lacks so many other features. Now, I'll say some of the other apps, and again, all on the blog post, some of the other apps kind of went crazy with features, and they're like putting in all this sort of stuff. What they all have is downloaded in the background. They all have that.
They all have download in the background, but does podcasts have what they wouldn't allow anybody else to do?
No. It still does that.
You still need to open it up.
Right. And where the thing that Instacast does that, so what the other ones do, and Instacast I think does it the best, is just that sort of telling you what's going on, and maybe it's just because I turn on all the notifications. That's sort of the thing. There's like hundreds of features in it I had to go through. My general feel is great. Podcast is free for anybody who would never spend a penny on podcasts, on an actual podcast, because podcasts are free. Like, then Podcast by Apple is fine. But it's just fine. And I expected more from Apple to put out, usually their their camera app isn't just fine, it's pretty good. Like, it has face detection, it has grids, it has, their iTunes app is pretty good. Their mail app is amazing. So it's always sort of
some of their apps are a little lightweight, like weather. And that's pretty light.
Yeah, but then again it does what it does, but it does it well, and it doesn't leave you wanting for more.
With this podcast app, it sort of made me think, like, why isn't there an audiobooks app? Like, it could be the same exact thing. Like, all this thing did was read from what already was sitting on my iPhone, pulled it into its own little separate section, and then had a link to go over to the store to grab it.
Well, you can do stuff you can't do. You can download in the background. You can subscribe to things. It will download it. You can sync your podcast between, say, I'll do that iCloud syncing. So here's the thing. If you want to just try a free app and you want to break podcasts, great. Try it. You can download. You have to play around with it to figure out where to do the stuff, but it's good for that.
Yeah, I couldn't really find it. So
if you want,
that's not that good.
If you want to pay the next one up, you want to pay a little bit of money, and you want like the good version, then try Downcast. Downcast is very good. It's universal. I think it's $1.99, and it has all the features.
Why wouldn't you say Instacast?
Because
it's $1.99.
No, it's not.
Well, it is if you only have an iPhone.
Yeah, but that's what I just said. Downcast is universal.
Oh,
you download it for $1.99, and Instacast is $4.99. Plus, there's an upgrade in it to go to is a pro version inside the app. So there's two versions. One's HD, one's iPhone, and the iPhone one has an in-app purchase to go to pro mode. So I think what happened is Instacast basically got out in the market. They got ahead, and they got basically they and they could raise the price. They could keep the price. Now everybody's getting into the game. I would just like Instacast to come down and make each one 99 cents because they have the best, but I would never suggest someone go spend $8 on podcast app.
I haven't. I've only bought the $1.99 for the phone because I don't do podcasts on the iPad.
Right.
So I'm an iPhone podcast consumer. So like Universal wasn't that important for me.
But here's the thing: when you have Universal, then you can
sync.
Well, then you can sync. And when I played with all versions, you would literally mark one as red here, and then instantly you'd see it mark red on the other side.
Oh, it's good.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that it's really well done. And a lot of them have I love Instacast for skipping ahead. A lot of podcasts not like ours, but have commercials. Skip ahead 30 seconds. I think Instacast is just the best built. Not most features, but sort of the most features you want, but their pricing is just the toughest because there's two apps, they're not universal, and there's pro within them. So I just feel like to say that to somebody versus pay $1.99, if you own Instacast, you want the best of the best, fine. If someone gave you a $25 gift certificate and you got to spend it on a podcasting app, buy Instacast, both apps. And that's what I've done. I use both because they are sort of the best and they work the best and they sync. But if you're just getting into it, get the free app. iCatcher sadly is not it just doesn't look like it's built for the iOS. It just looks like it was built for Android and someone sort of ported it. All the setting screens and stuff. So anyway, that's all on blog.arkusinc.com. Try them. I'd love to hear from other people. I even saw one the other day, and I was like, oh, another one just popped up. So it's hard to review these things because as you do them, it kind of pops up very quickly, with the next of the next. So go to blog.arkusinc.com and read up on that one. There'll be another one coming up this week, another kind of mini review one. Blogmaster's getting kind of, I don't know, mini reviewed. Maybe July is the month of reviews. Don't know. So keep up there and subscribe to everything on blog.arkusinc.com.
We got a couple good ones coming out.
Yeah, what's next week? What's this week?
We're going to have Chrome extensions that rock.
Oh, there you go. So that's a good one. See?
And then the week after,
it's you're putting a tease out there now.
The week after is kind of the week of the 100th podcast.
Oh.
So there's going to be a little coinciding.
Oh.
They're going to collide. The blog and the podcast are going to sort of...
Oh, you changed it then? Because it was supposed to be something like...
Oh, well, I was talking this week, and then this week is the... Oh, you're right. This week, then the next... Right, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
Sorry, that's when there's one in the middle that's very geeky Salesforce stuff.
All right, that's good. Well, we like that. We like geeky Salesforce stuff.
How to delete chatter feeds from the API stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, speaking of geeky Salesforce things...
Let's do it.
So, here's what I don't like to have happen in my life. Here's what, as a Salesforce consultant...
You know what I didn't even know?
Here's what I don't like to have
happen. What don't you like?
A client asks me, does this stuff happen all the time? Oh. What, we have an outage as we're talking?
I went there just now because I was like, oh, everything's back. And then I went just now and there's a little issue going on with Salesforce. The search performance degradation came back. And then there's another issue on all instances that isn't really being reported, but a DNS degradation.
So let's talk about this, because this is kind of big news in the world. And a small outage once whatever that goes over without a bang. But when you have one last week, which I'm looking at the 7-1.
Well, the week of basically the week of 6/25 to 7/1 was not a good week for NA4.
No,
bad week for NA4.
Apparently, lots it was down for a long time.
Lots of issues. I mean, we have customers on NA4.
Yes.
I know we do. And
I know they were out for a while. But 7.1, it looks like there's a lot of outages across an entire thing. That looked like...
no good.
Yeah. And then
performance degradation with search.
Yesterday, 7.10, we had major outages across NA1, NA5, NA6, CS...
Well, those are productions.
Right. Well, and then a bunch of
sandboxes.
Which came down to, I guess, it was not energy. It was I'm trying to think of the word. Let me just read it.
A power failure.
Yeah, power. Well, it was a power swap over. They're trying to swap from one power source to another during routine maintenance. It went down. Because the power was down, they then couldn't use the tools to bring things back up. So they were down for multiple hours. It looks like 7:24 to 10:35. Multiple hours, that's 3 hours. Plus, it basically, there's something about the way they do search or something, and again, I don't know enough about it. I mean, I know about search, but it's something about it. It does not come up quick. Like, it's got a reindex or whatever it's supposed to do. It takes many, many hours because they'll say, it took another 10 hours to get back up and for search to come back up. So,
and there's still an issue today with NA1 on search performance.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like it's DNS related.
No. Two different issues going on here.
Yeah, so what do you want to... What's your take?
It is what it is. I mean...
It's fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, or whatever.
Shame on you, shame on me. These things happen. I don't like to see them happen to Salesforce where, our bread is buttered. Because it is kind of one of those things. You have our clients that we care very much about, and we don't want these things to go down for them.
Right.
We want them to use their tools that we provide for them via Salesforce. and we don't like having to answer the questions. Does this happen all the time?
Yep.
No. Does it happen? Yes. How do you find out about it? You go to Trust. You subscribe to the RSS feed. You do whatever you got to do. They're getting better with providing better updates. At least it used to be like down,
right,
back up, and then like 4 hours later, it's like it's back.
So there's a good and bad news on this. One, the good and bad news on this was I thought they handled the interesting was the social. So I went back and I went to the Salesforce Twitter handle, and I basically went back and read about 2 or 3 days during that period what was happening, or I guess yesterday and the day before. And I was really impressed because it was very like, we have an issue, go check here, we're looking. There were even some jokes in there. Like one was saying, I'm glad Salesforce is back up, but now my phone system is down. And I think Salesforce tweeted, I think I retweeted it. Salesforce was like, well, maybe that's just a sign to go outside, to get outside. It was, I kind of wanted to see how Salesforce would handle in this new social enterprise world, how they would handle this type of thing. And I think they did a pretty good job. That's the good. The bad news is trust went down as part of this thing
That's
as well.
the bad part.
You
Because
cannot
I
have
remember
trust go
that
down.
happening 3 or 4 years ago. And being at that very large company that had a lot of licenses and being on a call with some higher ups and basically saying to them, listen, we get it. It goes down.
Right.
You're giving us the reason. We hear you. But you can't have trust go down. And you can't tell us the reason trust went down is because it's on the same infrastructure as the thing that went down.
Right.
You can't do that. Put it somewhere else. Put it elsewhere.
It just means that someone didn't think very hard when
Yeah.
they built the architecture. So again, I guess one thing is striking me now is back in the day when you had 5 NAs, NA 1 through 5 or NA 1 through 6, losing 1 through 4 was a big deal. Now, with 1 through 17, you can lose 1 and no one even knows because the other
They
6...
lost 8. But I guess there's 20 of them. But that's still half.
It's still, but I think that's the point. It's there are so many that it doesn't affect everybody. Now, there might be customers, and I know there were customers, some of them are ours, who are screaming and yelling, but it's funny how it's kind of, you don't take as big a hit. Now, this did hit the news. It was all over the news, all over the blogs. There was a very funny, I won't say the word, but the way that one of the register in England, the way they said that Salesforce failed, it was an English expression, which I won't. It would make our podcast explicit if I said it.
You can tell me afterwards.
Yeah, it
or
was
you could
very
type it into
funny.
the Google Doc so I could get a good laugh.
Oh, okay.
While I cover for you. One other thing, just to go back, I liked when they put RSS on the Trust site.
Right.
Because I used RSS at that time. It was sort of right at the end.
Right.
But now I don't use that so much anymore. So now I want Trust to do a little more social. Let me subscribe to Salesforce Trust or something. I guess you subscribe to, at Salesforce, but I don't feel like it's proactive enough. RSS is kind of dead in this particular circumstance.
Well, that was also responding. Salesforce responds. It would be nice if they just had one that was Salesforce support that that would just tell you when things went down.
Right.
Just Salesforce is down, at Salesforce is down, and then it would just literally send in, this is what's happening, or all is clear, all is good, or whatever. Also, SMS. There's lots of places now that you should be able to sign up for more. My bank can send me millions of alerts on every little transaction I do. It would be nice to have a little bit more, or even email. Hey, can I sign up for email that every time something goes down, you send me an email about it, just so I know? I don't know. It would be nice. I would think you should be able to, in your org somewhere, sign up for something that if you're on NA8 and NA8 goes down, you get an email that tells you that NA, as the administrator. That would be nice, right?
It would.
Right? I get the usage metrics every month. There are all 500 of them.
Really?
I wouldn't mind the, hey, your org went down email. So, but I guess the best way to get over a little outage is to buy somebody.
Why not?
So Salesforce this week, as of yesterday, I mean, they've just been on a tear of buying. It's hard to keep up with. I can honestly say, if I spent all my time picking out who we joked about making this the merger and acquisition podcast weekly. But Salesforce has now bought another little, another tool, Go Instant, provider of online business software that beefs up their customer service offerings. I think they're basically like it's a mini screen sharing through the browser.
Little
thing.
Screen sharing through the browser.
Just
no
like they had
no
Dim
little, no download. No little thing to download.
Wasn't that Dim Dim's thing too?
I don't know. I never got the chance to use Dim Dim.
Oh, I used Dim Dim.
I think
before they got
we
bought
tried to use, you tried to use it with me once and it just didn't work very well.
I used it with a client once.
Yeah.
And then it got bought. It wasn't very, I will say, Dim Dim wasn't reliable enough, and it had some quirks, and it was actually at that point I said, I'm paying, because it was free. And I was like, no, I'm going to pay. I'm going to pay WebEx and GoTo because I can't have this thing kind of work and kind of, have clients go, what's this Dim Dim thing? And you're like, no, here's WebEx, go to it.
Yeah, this feels like a people thing, don't you think?
$70 million?
Feels like a people thing. Not necessarily unless there's one super awesome technology little thing that they do that's just
clearly
amazing.
It's chatter, messenger, sharing, and maybe whatever they bought in Dim Dim wasn't good, so they had to buy another one.
We'll see at Dreamforce, I guess.
This is you'll see Buddy Media. So I've had people coming up to me now talking about Buddy Media a lot. People know I'm in the Salesforce business, so that has become a spot. People who don't really know Salesforce, but they're saying, "Oh yeah, I have friends that work at Buddy Media." Buddy Media is what's going to show up at Dreamforce. It's going to be.
You mean the marketing cloud?
Yeah, it's going to be the social cloud. It's going to be whatever it is. But I'll tell you, interesting enough, as talking to a friend of mine about this, who's kind of in this business, he's saying that pages, sort of your branded pages, they're not doing as well now with the new timeline.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, so because the timeline, so for those of you who are out there,
tabs, they were saying
because they used to have tabs.
Lost. Right.
Yeah, now it's like, so while people still go to these pages, but timeline for a person works. Timeline for a company Facebook page is
a company.
A little odd.
It sort of works. I know this is gonna sound weird. For a brand, it doesn't really work.
Right.
For a company, it's founded.
Right.
And signed up our first client. It's like a timeline. It's kind of cool. But for a brand like Coca-Cola,
right.
First bottling plant, yeah, sure. On your
but
Facebook timeline in 1912,
right.
That doesn't make sense.
So interesting enough, it's taking a hit, and I wonder if Facebook is going to sort of come around and do something about that. But obviously, we're going to see tons of Buddy Media stuff at Dreamforce. But let's get into some LinkedIn stuff, because I think actually LinkedIn there's two articles or two things happening with LinkedIn that are kind of interesting. Cloud news, as you were. One is I've been using the LinkedIn for Salesforce. I could write a whole blog post about that. Maybe the blog master would want to do it. But
it's sitting on my page layouts, blank and empty. Thanks.
Yeah. So if you think, and I think I said this on the podcast before, if you think Salesforce's licensing is difficult to understand, try LinkedIn's. But having said that, there's an interesting article out in Business Insider about how LinkedIn makes 20 times more money per user than Facebook. Now, obviously,
that's a lot.
Obviously, the people who are on LinkedIn they're not just there for sharing pictures. They're professionals. It makes sense just if you just think about it. There's a lot of kids on Facebook. There's a lot of people who aren't spending money online on Facebook. The people on LinkedIn generally are professionals who are looking and searching for jobs.
Yep.
Plus, that's a lot of valuable data that they then resell. So
recruiters too. Lots of recruiters.
Oh yeah. So you can do this and do that and sell things and but for the amount of time that people spend on LinkedIn, at the 18 minutes a month, Facebook users spend 6.4 hours a month. For that time, LinkedIn gets $1.30 and for every hour, and then and Facebook gets 66.2 cents. So for every hour you spend on LinkedIn, they're getting $1.30 for that hour. As Facebook's getting 6.2 cents. That's a lot. It's a big disparity.
probably why LinkedIn stock price is a lot
it's an easier
higher than Facebook.
It's an easier model. It's telling you what you is. Listen, here's what this thing is. There's no other thing to it. It's not. We're not trying to create something else. Creating the social graph is like, oh, what? We're doing what? So, just interesting. And then, in a kind of breaking up of the clouds, as it were, Twitter and LinkedIn are getting a divorce.
They're divorced.
They are due to Twitter's API.
Yeah, Twitter cut them off.
Right.
They didn't. I'm sort of like reading up. I read up on a little bit. They didn't. It's a weird thing for Twitter because their API is huge. It's a big thing for them.
Yep.
And like third-party apps connecting to it is obviously enormous for them. And I think they are starting to monetize people coming to Twitter, like with like promoted tweets and things of that nature, and having those eyeballs sort of siphoned off to other places.
Meaning I don't have to go to Twitter to see that tweet.
Right.
And that's
kind of the thing. They want you to have to come to Twitter to see that tweet.
So you have to be on Twitter to see the tweet.
Right. And that's why they're kind of cutting the reins with LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you can still post to Twitter from LinkedIn, but it won't show up in your LinkedIn like feed.
Right.
So you can still post, I think it's one way, from LinkedIn, you can post something to Twitter.
Right.
But I don't think you can do it the other way. Like
what you could do
what you used to be able to do. Like you could just have it set up like anything I tweet just show up in my LinkedIn.
Right.
That's how I had it. Or you can hashtag in and things will flow into LinkedIn as you do it.
Good thing about this, the good thing about this is, thankfully, for people like you who destroy LinkedIn with all your stupid
destroy
tweets.
anything. People like it.
No,
I don't tweet that much.
It's nice for those who kind of want to separate their Twitters from their LinkedIns. I want to be on LinkedIn and see LinkedIn stuff. I don't need to see every tweet I just saw over in Twitterland. Like they're kind of separate. I did do the in tags once in a while, which I don't know when I remember it, but. Interesting enough, you can still do all that stuff to Facebook. So they're not going to stop Facebook from doing that. Oh, you want to send your Facebook tweet or Facebook up to Twitter or up to Facebook? Yeah, they don't care about that. Or reverse, they don't. So it's interesting how they're kind of saying, "Oh no, LinkedIn, no," but oh Facebook, come here. Like that's fine. We can keep that open for you as the bigger boy in the block.
For a little while, we'll see.
I think it's a great. This is a strange move into something else, but I think it's a great time for these other social networks to come in because there's all sorts of stuff going on. Facebook's kind of losing its shine. Twitter's getting more monetization, and there's more like promoted tweets and stuff, and the other ones are getting bought up. Instagram gets bought up, and it's time for someone else to come in and say, "Hey, look, we're not doing any of that stuff."
Someone's like come in, but I don't feel Google Plus doing it. I don't feel it.
Yeah.
Like I have not adopted Google Plus into my lifestyle. It just hasn't happened. Like it's not even something I ever even think about. Like, I'm gonna go to Google Plus. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Never. And I'm logged into Google all day long. It's sitting right there at the top of my screen all day. The little thing.
Right.
The number. It's always got a number in it. Someone's doing something.
So there's been a lot of news about them using some of the technologies that they have that others don't have, like the Hangout, which allows you to do stuff. In fact, I guess it'll kill off one of my picks for some future, but they just released the iPad version of Google Plus. That's very nice and really well done and allows you to do Hangouts in it. Again, they're doing the kind of like, listen, we're going to be everywhere, and whether you want to love us now or love us later, I too have not found the critical mass over there or haven't found the reason. I still go every day just to kind of look through and see if there's stuff that's here that's missing. Like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I love the layout. I just don't love the volumes. The volume isn't there. Plus, with Google, which is a little bit different than Facebook, I don't log into Facebook as a corporate employee. I log into Google as a corporate employee. So I end up having like multiple Google Plus profiles. I feel like that's kind of
I have
confusing.
two.
Yeah,
and it's
too.
weird because like I'll get, and I don't even really look at my personal Gmail account, and it's like I kind of want to like delete that one. Like, I don't even want that one to even exist out there. It's like, someone searches for me, they're going to find me twice, and guess what? Same picture, and it's like...
Well, that I changed. I changed the picture so they wouldn't see it, and I changed the name. I said, so I went from...
I go on there, and, like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not, like, following the right people, or whatever it is. It's just the same people over and over posting the same, like, seemingly the same stuff over and over. And I'm just like, man, this is just a lot of nothing from the same 6 people. And I don't really like it. I don't dig it.
All right.
I mean, there's things about it I like. I think circles are cool. I think their TV commercials are cool. I think in time, maybe they'll...
Circles and TVs are cool.
Circles and TV commercials.
That's cool.
In time, maybe it'll, they're Google. If they decide not to kill it off, they can put some energy behind it, and it seems like they are. Like, they're actually doing, like, commercials, right?
Right.
And it's built in everywhere. Like, you go everywhere inside of Google, and you're seeing that little plus sign
right.
and the little number at the top right with your name, and you can hit it, and it's like, oh, all right, now I'm in plus. It'd be nice if everything just, like, came together.
Well, that's sort of the thing. Google Places now is all in plus. So if you go find a Google Place, which used to be like their mapping thing, it's now built into plus. That's the thing with Google, is that they don't have to get you to adopt it. They can just switch a little switch, and all of a sudden you're in it and you don't know it. Now I'm in Google plus. I think the problem for them has always been, this is like their 4th foray. They just killed off Buzz. They
killed off another one, Jaiku.
They had Plus. They had the other one, the plus one before it was Google Plus. It was something else. They've done so many iterations of this. It just feels like, they couldn't really start from scratch. Again, I still think that they have a lot to go on. It's just a matter of, do these other social networks collapse enough to allow them to go in, or maybe people just get. This might be the thing. There might just be a social fatigue at some point. People just might be, all right, I'm done. I'm done with this.
On to the next thing.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not social anymore. Maybe it's something else. People get the private network. I don't know. Some people, there's some fatigue that happens. It's happened to you on Twitter. It happened to you on Facebook. It happened to me. Eventually you get kind of like, oh, man, like, all right. It becomes part of your life, but it's not as big as it was when you picked it up as a toy. All right, so speaking of the biggest things that ever happened ever.
Go on.
Just want to remind everybody that in not 1, but 2 weeks, we have the 100th episode of CloudFocus Weekly. So we actually have a date now. It'll be out not next week, but the week after. And just as a reminder, it's going to be an all CloudFocus app picks of the week podcast. So it's going to have, we've decided, and I've basically goaded you to do it on air, and I'll do it again. We're going to do a best of 5 picks each. So 5 of our favorite picks, our own picks. You can't pick my picks.
I've already got 10 down for that.
Okay, well, you only need 5.
I've got more. I've got like 12.
You need 5. And then we're going to do 5 brand new picks of our...
That's what I'm still working on.
All right. I have done the others. I have plenty of new ones. It's going to be weeding them out, all the new picks I have.
Why don't you just give me like 4 of them?
No. And then, but the hard part is
you're
going
hoarding
back
them.
and coming. I am.
I can give you your top 5. Like, that's the thing.
Right, but I can probably look at my Mac and see my top 5. Like,
I can
bam,
give you
bam,
your
bam,
top
bam.
5.
Yeah, well, I know. I picked the best things.
You do.
Yeah, that's clear. All right, so that's it. We will do the 100th episode. Will be...
There'll be a blog post accompanying it.
Okay, I see it. Who's writing that? You writing that?
That's mine.
Yeah. Okay. So that will be good. So that's the 100th episode that will be out not next week, but the week after.
Right.
It'll also be accompanied with another special thing in it. You'll see when we do it, and some other things. We have a couple little surprises in the 100th episode.
Right.
Right. Okay. So speaking of CloudFocus app picks of the week, let's get to ours. Why don't I go first? No. Why don't
you don't go first. Stop it.
Silly.
All right. So.
Silly rabbit.
Again, last week I said I want to.
You weren't here last week.
2 weeks ago.
Yep.
A fortnight ago, I wanted to get back to picking more app exchange apps because I feel like I slipped into the mode of just picking a lot of like iPhone apps.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I use most. Most apps I use are iPhone apps because I'm on my phone all the time and I use a lot of those apps. the App Exchange, when something comes up, when a client needs something. I mean, we're not installing things every day just for the fun of it. We're doing things, and you don't use things all the time. So, but I went around and I looked for a few things recently, and I found one that I think is really cool. Again, disclaimer, haven't used it, but I think this is a really great idea. Hope it works as good as it's described. The app is called Group Alerts for Chatter by Radial Web Solutions LLC.
Okay.
And what it does is it alleviates you from having to follow all of these records when you want to see the automated chatter updates, like opportunity stage went from whatever to closed one.
Okay.
So you have to follow all the records to see the record updates, like the chatter updates themselves, and even stuff that someone posts. But what this does is it allows you to create filters and rules that take the chatter posts and put them into a group. So all you have to be is part of the group. And whenever a record meets the criteria, it will take a template that you create and post something into the group. So let's use the example of like a closed one opportunity, right?
Yes.
So you can be in a group called, the sales team, and you can have a rule created on opportunities whenever an opportunity that's greater than a certain amount and stage goes to closed one, post this to this chatter group. And this can be the account name, the salesperson's name, the amount, the custom field X, custom field Y.
Okay.
And, a little note, like, congrats to the owner for closing this huge deal, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So now you're just a part of a group, and you're seeing these updates, as opposed to having to follow every record. It sort of gets around that 500 record limit.
It's like kind of like workfall rules for chatter posting.
Kind of, yeah, with a nice user interface on top of it. I looked at the interface. It looks pretty neat. You're going to ask me, so I'm going to tell you. It's $18 a month for the org. So it's not user-based.
It's a good little pricing model. I wonder...
I like the pricing model because it's not user by user. It's org-wide.
It's $18 per company per month.
Per company, which I presume is per org.
Per company probably means you can install into multiple orgs.
One price per company, regardless of number of users. Easy monthly payments through App Exchange checkout.
Right, the new App Exchange checkout.
Cancel anytime.
That's interesting.
Pretty cool. And in one of the pictures, it has the name Kevin Swigum, who I wonder if that's the same Kevin Swigum who I oftentimes talk to all over the place on Chatter and Twitter and whatnot. I wonder. Anyway, if that is, nice job, Kevin.
Good job.
If it's not, good job, other Kevin. I like the app, and if if ever a client were to ask me about that particular, we want chatter updates to post to groups, and we run into this limit, I'm gonna suggest this app called Group Alerts for Chatter.
Nice. $18.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's cool. It's very cool. I like it. I mean, again, I could see, and obviously, the bigger the org, the more you wanna try that, right? You want to get away from having everybody follow everything. Also, with the 500 limit,
it gets pretty.
It gets hard. It
gets hard. I mean, we hit it in our org, and we're not even 50 people. You know what I mean? Like, there's not that much data in our org to really be following.
Right.
And this lets you just be a part of a group, and being a part of a group is nothing.
It's true, and you can be part of as many groups as you want.
I believe that's true.
All right.
Although there's probably some limit there.
So my pick of the week.
I like your pick.
Yes. This one, I have so many, I'm basically saving them. So I have a question for you.
Go on.
On our 99th episode, since on our 100th episode we're doing 5 picks each.
I prefer to not make a pick.
On the 99th.
Yeah.
So this is my last...
So I can save that
one pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so skip ahead, don't even listen to the 99th episode because there's nothing on it. Well, basically what we're going to do is break up the 99th and 100th episode into 2 episodes because the 99th is going to be
We're going to record them We're going to record them probably back to back.
Back to back. And then one's going to be news related.
Right.
And one's going to be all the picks.
Just all picks.
All the picks. But
picks all the time.
Our funny banter will be in both of them.
Well, my funny banter will be in both of them.
My funny banter.
Your banter.
So this would have been on my top. This would have been the 5 picks. I have so many.
Really? This would have made it?
This would have made not top 5 picks. I'm saying this would have made my new picks.
This would have made your new 5?
Yeah, this is a good one.
It is pretty good.
I'm throwing a good one out there. I thought I could have crappy one out there.
This is for Mac users.
Yeah, this is
productivity people everywhere.
So right up my alley.
Go on.
I love it. By the way, in my picks, I want to let you know I'm going to be mixing up both Salesforce, hardware, software. I'm going to try to do one of everything.
I'm gonna get a hardware in there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get a hardware one in
All
there.
right. Because I'm just saying, because I'm going to mix it up. So this is.
I might pick our microphone.
Can't. You might pick our new microphone. All right. So this is a really easy and quick one. It's called Cheat Sheet. It is for the Mac. It's available on the App Store, and it does something that is just so simple. Is it free, or did you buy it, or is it 99 cents?
Free.
Free. Well, it's a no-brainer.
If you own a Mac,
you download
download this as soon as you're done listening.
Yeah. So this is for all you productivity people who like to use your keys. This one allows you. It just basically you set a key on your keyboard as a sort of the way to bring it up. And you hold down that key for a period of time. I've set mine to very long, and I've set it to my command key. And whatever app you're in, so if you're on the Finder, or if you're in GarageBand, or if you're on Chrome, or in whatever, you hold down the key, and then up comes, after a delay, a basically overlay with every single key command that's available to you. So in this way, I'm looking at Chrome, and it's showing me all the Chrome ones. It's showing me all the file, edit, view, history, bookmarks. It shows me every command that I can do from the keyboard. And this is great because if you're constantly looking for other ways to speed up your productivity, you can download this, and then whatever app you're in, it's a great way to quickly remind yourself without having to go through all the menus. Because right now, what you would have to do is go through all the menus and see where they exist. You can go, and then you even learn things that you didn't even know you could do by a keyboard, and hopefully start to memorize those. So, it is called Cheat Sheet. It is very, very simple. It is free. It's in the Mac store, so it's a download away. And it is there's nothing not to like about it. I've been using it for a week or so. It hasn't crashed my system, so I mean it's because it's kind of always. And there's little preferences for it. You can't do too much, but basically the delay and the key. I showed it to you and other people in the office, and you both went and downloaded it immediately.
It's free. Why not?
Right.
And I love key commands, but sometimes I don't know them, so this is a good way to learn them.
Yep.
Because they're right in your face.
The one thing I wish it would do, which I don't know is even possible, would be to expose website key commands. So if you're on a website, be able to see...
Gmail?
Yeah, to be able to expose those. Now, Gmail has actually a key command, and so in Docs, so you can show the key commands that are in Docs.
Oh, yeah,
but
I'm sitting in Docs right now, and if I hit the little thing, it's showing me Chrome.
Right, showing you Chrome.
Because I'm in Chrome.
Right.
I don't know how it would know what I want.
Well, that would be nice. Anyway, you
can print them from here, too, by the way, which kind of, defeats the purpose.
Well, I guess you want to put them on your wall or something. So, Cheat Sheet for the Mac, for free. My last pick... My last pre-100th regular pick for this year, or I guess pre-100. We'll be in the 100 ones, then we'll be whatever. All right, so that kind of wraps it up. Remember to go to blog.arkusinc.com and follow the blog. We post at least a blog a week and a podcast a week. You can comment there. You can read up all the last book. The blog and the podcast, basically, as of, I think, next week, are both 2 years old. We started blogging and podcasting in the middle of July 2000, and it was like July 17th.
That makes sense if we're coming up on 100 episodes.
Makes sense. So that's kind of interesting. So lots of content. They're all up there. You can download every single one. You might want to go back and download the first podcast or the first blog post.
Oh, man, that first podcast.
Let's just see.
I should get that one.
You should see what it sounds like.
I should do that.
Man, we don't care if you listen. Just download it. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/ArkusInc, or Jason M. Atwood, or Just Edelstein. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/ArkusInc. We are using a new timeline. We do post all of our stuff there, so if that's where you want to live your life, fine, follow us there and like us on Facebook. We're also on Google+, so for you people on Google+, follow us there as well. But best way to do is subscribe to the podcast is through one of the millions of ones I just told you about, Downcast, iCatcher, Podcast, or Instacast, or in iTunes. So if you want to go old school, although I guess I wonder if that'll kind of go away. You think they'll kill that off eventually?
That's what I was saying. I feel like there's gonna be, like, why not do an audiobooks one? Like, I'm listening to 2 audiobooks right now, and I have to, like, dig through that music app.
Right.
Like, that podcast thing did was, right, just surface it. Like,
right.
What's the big deal?
Right.
Why not?
Well, I think it came from it being...
I know, it was an iPod. It was everything.
Yeah.
But now you've got this thing to, like, break everything out. They broke video out.
Right.
So why not break everything out?
Yep. I think they eventually will break everything out. Podcasts, hopefully they break them out better.
Set them free.
Set those podcasts free. It's the year of the podcast, clearly. The world is turning towards podcasts.
I thought 2007 was the year of the podcast.
You mean the year we started podcasting?
Yeah. Not this particular one.
No. Another podcast.
It'd be funny. On our I don't want to tell anybody, but it'd be funny if people listen to both.
Oh. If they know the other podcast?
If they know the other one.
Yeah.
If they even know it.
If you had to be a fan of both, you would have to be a very specific type of person to like to listen to both. Because
and that one's old.
It's 2007.
It's raw.
155 episodes in that one. Yeah.
That one's not done weekly.
Yeah, that's why. But anyway, so we've been podcasting for a long, long time. But we enjoy it, and we really appreciate it. Again, if you're on iTunes, big shout out to Zach, who left
that was nice of him.
A review on iTunes. Please do that. That's great. We love that. I don't know how in the new world of podcasts, it's still sort of the mecca of podcasts is iTunes. It's still the catalog, I think, for most of these places.
I think in our other podcast, in the template where you post it, it still says, like, find us in the Zune Marketplace.
Oh, yeah. There is no Zune Marketplace.
It's really funny with a link.
Yeah,
like,
with a link to the Zune Marketplace.
Find it, maybe.
All right. Well, until next week and the 99th episode, enjoy those cloudy days.